Hello and welcome to the Frontrunner podcast. My name's Arlen Kaysler and we've got a fantastic show lined up for you this week. Got three great guests joining us to wrap up a massive Spring Carnival and look ahead to a absolutely cracking day's racing at Morphettville on Saturday. We've got James DeFerris, Kerrin Stokes and Zak Trussell who are going to join me because Link's off this week. Again, he's doing the Mighty River Run, raising some great funds for Novita. So well done to Link. But without further ado, let's get stuck into today's show. All right, let's welcome in our first guest of today's show, and it's probably the busiest and one of the best guys in the industry. It's James DeFerris. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Arlen. Great to be with you. I'll tell you what, Lincoln Moore, I don't know what deal he's got, but he takes more holidays than anyone I've ever come across. So, mate, wrapped to be warming the seat again and jumping on.
Well, he's taking this week off for charity, so I can't get too stuck into him this week. But he's doing some good work there for the Mighty River Run and Novita. But you're looking very rustic. Are you really leaning into this stable hand, stable rep kind of role now?
I'm about to start the afternoon shift, mate. So mucking out a few boxes in behind me and getting the horses sorted. I thought I would mix it up with you get used to doing these things in a little study and you get sick of the four walls. So. Nice day. I thought I'd take it out on location.
I like it. Now let's. I suppose you were all across the Spring Carnival over in Melbourne over the last 4 to 6 weeks. Just thought we may as well recap some of that, put a bow on it, and maybe run through your top 5 moments from that spring.
Yeah, look, I would love to be sitting here talking about some moments with a strong South Australian connection, and there were definitely some of those, and probably timely to start with one, and that was the McAvoys and Jamie Mallum and their success with Half Yours. Now, I just love this story for a number of reasons. A, he's a quality stayer, this horse, but B, the Australian bred angle, one of the only Australian bred horses in the Caulfield Cup, the only Australian bred horse in the Melbourne Cup, and he just shows that the dream is still alive for people that don't have the budgets or don't have the appetite to go to Europe and different parts of the world and invest in, expensive stayers and expensive pedigrees. You can still do it on a smaller scale, even a breed to race scale. Like St. Jean's stood for $3,000 before this spring, and his fee will obviously go up next spring. But an incredible story with a horse from nowhere, and obviously with some trainers and a jockey that have been a quintessential part of South Australia. They all started their careers here. So I think that was definitely one of the highlights, and a lot of people took a lot of joy. I had a chat to Calvin McAvoy actually yesterday for a piece that'll be in the next monthly magazine for Racing SA, and he just spoke about all the outpouring of calls and messages. He was getting random people that were ringing him from different parts of Australia and different parts of South Australia, talking about how much of a kick they got out of seeing these people win this race. So I think that wasn't lost on him, what the race means to people, and naturally they celebrated with a few bottles of the Barossa's finest, which is no surprise. So look, Half Yours definitely one of the highlights. I think another a race that stood out for me, and probably a little bit of recency bias in this one, was Strictly Business's win in the Oaks. Now, again, this is why I love racing. Anybody, doesn't matter who you are, what size your stable is, you can get a good horse, and that's exactly what Tommy and Monique Carberry have in this daughter of Grunt, who she's modestly bred. She's out of a $600 mare, raced by some friends from Ballarat and Geelong, and they've got a very special filly. She obviously trounced them in the Group 1 VRC Oaks at her third start for the spring, her third start in 14 days, and her fourth career start. And I had a chat to Tommy Carberry, and they've identified the Australasian Oaks and maybe the Derby in South Australia as her likely autumn aims, which is really exciting because normally you get an Oaks winner in Melbourne, they would automatically look at, the ATC Oaks in Sydney, but they're just suggesting that maybe Adelaide's the right path for this filly who, in 12 months' time, I think we'll be talking about as a Caulfield Cup and Melbourne Cup contender. So that was another highlight for me, and that is really exciting. Other highlights, I'll go right back to the spring. I love Treasure the Moment as a horse, what she was able to do in the Menzies Stakes. Early doors, I think she's a filly. Probably did go right for her towards the back end of spring with a little setback there with colic, but she's a horse that I took a great deal of joy winning early doors. And Sir Dilius, again, we didn't get to see him fire at the pointy end with a few little issues there. But his pair of Group 1 wins, including that Turnbull Stakes, where he beat the Cox Plate winner, he beat the Caulfield Cup winner, he beat the Melbourne Cup winner. I think he's a pretty special horse, and to see him rise through the ranks was quite enjoyable.
That's good to hear. I was actually going to ask if you did hear anything about Strictly Business, because I thought that Our Works might be, a perfect place for her to come. And the guy that's sitting behind my right there, Johnny Allen, knows a thing or two about winning Group 1s at Morphettville. So might be the perfect combination.
I think, having a chat to Tom Carberry yesterday, he just said that, being able to bring her over for, one trip and whether that is, whether it is just targeting an Oaks, whether she's that, genuine 2.5 mile stayer, and they look at a derby as well. We know that fillies have a great record in the South Australian Derby. And just the likelihood, Sydney autumn time, it's not a guarantee, but you're a fair chance of getting a rain-affected track, and sometimes a very heavily rain-affected track. And albeit you can get some rain in Adelaide at that time of year, history would say that you're generally on a good 4, soft 5, maybe soft 6 at the worst. Famous last words, we might get a deluge and end up on a heavy 10. But that was where Tommy's head was at. Obviously still early doors. She's just gone to the paddock, but would be great to see her in Adelaide.
And it seems that Adelaide's on some people's radars too, because we saw Point Burrow win, and I think Sam Freeman came out and said that the Sangster might be a really good race for her in the autumn. And we know that, Mick Price, Michael Kent Jr., etc., always support the carnival too, and always have some very, very good gallopers.
I think that's what the $1 million has done. So obviously we've had $1 million Group 1s for the last couple of carnivals with the investment from Sportsbet. And I think that is, meant that it's firmly on trainers and connections' mind, even 6 months out in the spring at the moment. They're sort of, they're looking ahead to what their autumn carnival might look like. And when we're racing for $500,000 in some of those Group 1s, yeah, it's good money, but it's hard to compete with well, obviously Melbourne, but also Sydney and Brisbane. But just doubling it to $1 million, they are, bona fide good races and good targets for horses that are competing for, prize money that's on par with what they would in other states.
Definitely. Now let's have a look ahead to this week coming up. And, so still there's one Group 1 left in the spring. It's the CF4 Stakes at Caulfield. And we've got a few South Australians running around in some of the lead-up races there.
Yeah, so I had just a quick flick through markets, which, as we're sitting here filming this, they've sort of just dropped in the last hour or two. And yeah, three horses that are going to stakes races that are all given each way chances. You've got the Village Stakes for the sprinters, and we know Sharippa's a horse that has excelled in Melbourne, and he's run really well at Caulfield before, so he gets back to the scene of one of his nice wins, and obviously a really good run and probably an unlucky run in an Oakley Plate. And I think he's drawn sort of middle of the track, and he's like a $10 or $11 chance. And then Grinzinger Prince, really exciting moment for Cody Reid and his team to have a runner in a listed race in Melbourne, and he goes there with great winning form. He was pretty dominant first up in Adelaide, and I'd imagine that Cody would have left a little bit there in the tank to have him sort of peaking second up, maybe having a nice stakes race in Melbourne sort of in the back of his mind. So again, he's drawn wide. They've gone to Lockie Nindorf with that South Australian connection. But I see there's been a little bit of money for him from when markets first went up. So clearly there's a few punters that think he can run a cheeky race. And Aviatrix, another mare now of Richard and Chantal's that has proven herself at stakes level in Melbourne. So she's going to run around in the mares race there. And look, she's always a chance in these sorts of races. If she brings her best, she's going to be right in it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think they deserve a bit of spring success after Sabage, left their stable and ran so well last week as well. But it's all exciting. And locally, we kind of look ahead to Sportsbet Finals Day next week, which is shaping up to be a cracker. I think there's 9 races in the card, a lot of obviously series finals. Free entry for anyone who wants to come along as well. But it's really going to be a fantastic day's racing at Morphettville next week.
Yeah, can't wait for Finals Day. Again, it's a great initiative to just really create a focal point for South Australian racing at the end of spring. We've obviously, we have Balaclava Cups, we've got Murray Bridge Gold Cups, we've got John Letts Cups sort of corresponding with a lot of the feature race days in Melbourne, but nice to just have a bit of a climax and a sort of end point for participants to really target towards. And in years gone by, the winners of these finals have been able to kick on and compete at a higher level sort of later in the season and in seasons after that. So can't wait for Finals Day and hopefully the bits and pieces that the club and obviously with the support of Sportsbet have going on can bring a bit of extra crowd from what I could gather. And I'm only going off, being trackside for a couple of those, those big Group 1 days in Melbourne, being trackside at Morphettville. There were some really healthy crowds there. So hopefully that can translate into a nice bumper crowd there on finals day.
Now, before we let you go, mates, when's the next Ferris Racing runner hitting the tracks, and when do we see you leading them around the parade ring? It's looking $1 million.
We've got a pretty lean period at the moment. We might have a runner at Murray Bridge next Wednesday, and then we'll probably take a couple to Clare for Clare Cup Day. But just punching around the edges at the moment. A couple of our nicer horses that we'll probably get back to just sort of Saturday grade the back end of this month or early December. But yeah, sort of at a bit of a transition stage with a couple that have just come back in, sort of starting their preps, a couple that have just sort of pulled up stumps. So nothing to get too excited about in the next week, which means, look, I can turn my attention to Morphettville Parks this Saturday and try and find a few winners. I've just been doing the form for one of my other gigs, and small fields, but a couple of competitive races and a couple of horses that have been good to me over the last couple of months that I think can probably win again.
All right, give the punters one. Who's your best on Saturday?
Look, I'm good. I had a look at the 3-year-old race. So it's a heat of the is it the
Rebel Raider?
Rebel Raider, yeah. So race number 3. Again, small field, some strong Victorian interest, but I was trackside at on Sale Cup Day when the horse, and his name escapes me now, Mick Price and Michael Kent Jr.'s that's come across, was able to win on debut. He led all the way on that occasion. Now they've taken up the opportunity to bring him across for his second start. And I think it's pretty good placement, because I think if he can replicate what he did there at Sale, if you factor in a little bit of natural improvement, which generally horses take from start 1 to start 2, I think he can be going close. Is it Whiskey Joe? I think his name is.
Whiskey Joe's the horse's name, yeah. Race 3, number 1, Jason Holder, ride for the Price Kent combo.
Yeah, so look, I think he's going to be hard to beat, but that's a competitive little race. There's some nice horses or progressive horses lining up there. And then a little bit later in the card, the horse of Andrew Lewis's Guru Warrior. He's won 3 in a row. I think he's a middle distance and stayer of great promise. He's undefeated, once he's sort of got beyond 1,600 metres, and he's still doing a lot wrong. So, yeah, I think he'll win again.
Yeah, race 6, number 3. Guru Warrior, it might be a stubby holder double on Saturday if your tips are correct. But, mate, as always, thanks for joining us and filling some big shoes of Lincoln Moore.
Always happy to jump on and reflect on what's been a great spring and look forward to finals day.
All right, let's have a look at this week's Dare to Dream Horse of the Week, and it's a nice 2-year-old colt from the Sarah Rotten Yard out of Russian Camelot and Snowfields. Now, the stable have just sent us an update on this guy's progress. He's been broken in and is currently in his full first work prep at the stable. So he's going to be in the rotating roster 4 to 6 weeks in, 4 to 6 weeks out between work and spelling until the end of summer, and then he's going to be ready to go. So Sarah's described him as a leggy colt. He's grown again, filled out into a lovely 2-year-old, and his body and attitude gives him the potential to race as a late season 2-year-old and will be a very nice 3-year-old. So they're expecting him to be a good middle distance prospect, and we know how good his dad was in Russian Camelot, winning the SA Derby and, of course, the Underwood. So if you can be half as good as him, you're going to have a very good horse on your hands. Priced at $35,000, he's a great pickup and a part of a very exciting up-and-coming stable. So to hear more about him, head to daretodream.com.au to find out more. One of our special guests today is Kerrin Stokes, part of the Stokes Racing Empire and the head honcho here at Morphettville. Kerrin, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me, mate.
Absolute pleasure. Now, sitting on top of the SA Metro Premiership with 13 wins, looking to go back-to-back this season, obviously, and you've started off really well.
Yeah, it's been a great start to the season, trying to continue that momentum from last season, and I think we can. We've got a great team here and a great bunch of horses, so I'm sure we will. Part
of that team is Jacob Opperman. Now, we saw Lockie move across to Melbourne, and Jacob stepped in and he's been absolutely flying. 59 rides for 14 wins, 20 placings. I suppose, what was it about Jacob, initially that caught your eye and you wanted to make him your stable rider? Yeah, I guess we're just trying to identify that next young talent coming through, and Jacob kind of
was waiting for, I guess, a bigger stable to pick him up. And yeah, the perfect opportunity for him. And yeah, he's young, he's got a lot of talent, and yeah, hopefully he keeps improving as well. But it's been a good start with him.
Yeah, definitely. Now, we saw Ferrivia and Snow Mercy kick off their Melbourne spring campaigns here in Adelaide. Both claimed stakes races across the border. I suppose, where do you see those two sit in your stable rankings? Because when he spoke to Lockie, he was incredibly positive about both of those horses.
Yeah, both of them would be right up there. They always showed us a lot, especially Snow Mercy. I think Ferrivia maybe flew under the radar for us. We thought she'd had ability, but to that extent is quite remarkable. She just kept going on with it. But yeah, I think Snow Mercy still has a lot more improvement in her. But yeah, they've both done very well, and was very proud to see them do that.
Snow Mercy runs this weekend at Caulfield. She a chance there?
She is not a good barrier draw, make it sticky from at Caulfield especially, but the team's very happy with her, and either or, she's done a massive job this prep and would be better again next time in.
Yeah, now I suppose keeping next time in mind and the autumn here in Adelaide, are there any horses you kind of got in the stable that you're really excited on, that we should keep an eye on for, maybe your next stakes winner?
I think she's definitely one that could come back in the autumn, or both of them really. Yeah, you never know. The 3-year-olds have been running well in the Sangster, so we'll keep that in mind. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
And where's Deacon at? Would he be a chance to contest the Adelaide Cup next year?
Possibly. He's just having a time off in the paddock after those scans, which was unfortunate. I feel for the team, but we'll just give him a bit of time off and then we'll just reassess. But yeah, you never know.
Never know. This week in Adelaide, you got a massive contingent at Morphettville, and including the first race, you got 3 runners, which is half of the field. Port Arlington is the horse that of yours that's had that run under the belt. Would he kind of be your top seed going into the 2-year-old on Saturday?
He would, purely based off, I guess, how screwed down he is. He's had that race under his belt, and he's had a 3-week gap now to, I guess, polish him up. But I think the interesting runner is State of Flow. She was very impressive jumping out on Tuesday, and I think, I think she might be one to follow.
Very nice. And Demelli was another one of yours that defied a big betting drift to win last start. She obviously ran in some really quality races over autumn and came back with a bang a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, she flew under the radar here as well. I thought she needed the run, but I guess her class prevailed, and I'm very excited to see her go around Saturday. I know it's probably coming out of a weaker form race compared to the rest of the field, but I think she's improved massively, and I think she's one of our best.
Now, I've got to ask the question for a couple mates who have shares in this horse. It is Palma Jumeirah. Probably been a little bit unlucky last few starts. Can it turn that around on Saturday?
I think it can. We had a dual nom in the 1,000 race as well, but we just feel she probably is looking for that touch further. Now I think she's third up. She gets her chance to, and small enough field. Yeah, she's definitely right in the mix, and hopefully she's been running consistently, and Saturday might be her day.
Fingers crossed it is. Now, you got 5. I think you've got 5. Sorry, you got runners at 5 tracks across the Stokes stable from Thursday through Saturday, both here and interstate. If there's one horse that you think is the stable's best winning chance across the board, who would that be?
I like Capital X. I think finally drawing a gate is a big plus, and I think, he's really starting to turn the corner. And also Demelli, I think she's big enough odds, and the way she's just come out of that last run's been massive, and I think she'll be going very close.
I love it. The punters will thank you as well when they both salute on Saturday, I'm sure. Kerrin, thanks for jumping on, mate. Good luck for the rest of the season. You guys are flying, and it's an exciting time to have you guys performing well in this state.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, mate. Cheers.
Best bets time, and we've got Zak Trussell joining us this week. Zak, people might know you a bit from social media and the like, and you got your own tipping service up and running now. Do you just want to give us a bit of a background on yourself, how you got into racing, and maybe how you like to find your winners?
Yeah, so I've been owning horses since I was 18. Didn't grow up in a horse family or anything, but it's always been a big interest for the whole family. And then, pretty much 18, I think I might have even been 17 or 16 when I first owned my first horse with my old man in a syndicate, and it's sort of gone from there. I've always been a fan and follower of racing, but probably more so in the last 4 to 5 years, sort of since COVID.
started to take it more seriously and did form somewhat properly, I suppose, or properly, however you want to say it. And now they have a huge interest in it. I've been involved with a couple of stables over the last few years doing some form for them. And I've had my own website previously, worked for a couple of other companies as well. The website I'm working for currently, the Bettor's Edge, it's not mine, it's someone else's website. They're running a good platform. The platform's up there for anyone, whether you're a professional or semi-professional or just a mud punter, I suppose, and wanting a few tips here and there. Obviously I'll do SA. There's another guy doing New South Wales and Vic. And then, if American sports are your thing as well, they're heavily with NBA and NFL as well, which I love, being a sports follower as well. So, yeah.
Very nice. Now let's get stuck into your best bets of the day. And we talked about race 3, which is our race of the day. You were very keen on common interest in that benchmark 70 there.
Yeah, I've always liked common interest as a horse. Obviously, he's only had 2 starts. He was actually nommed and accepted to go to Flemington in Cup Week last week. He was 100 to 1. I was actually pretty keen to have something on him then. I think that was in the Schweppes sprint on Cup Day. But they've saved him for this. It's a pretty solid race, but he's always shown ability from these 2 starts. He's done a lot of things wrong, and the key thing here is he gets winkers on. He also gets Jack Taylor in the saddle today in his first ride back for the stable from his concussion injury. Not that he's losing much from Jacob Altman, who's ridden him the 2 starts prior. Out the 1250, that's probably the small query is, will he run a strong 1250 out? But I'm pretty keen that he will. I'd expect him to roll forward from gate 7 at the moment and land on speed, and I think he'll be right in this finish.
The next race you want to have a look at is race 6. It's benchmark 78 over 2,250 metres and another heat of the Skybow series. And it's going to be short, but you're tipping Guru Warrior can make it 4 on the bounce.
Yeah, he's already been backed in strongly since markets opened earlier today. He's probably the most exciting horse in SA at the moment, Guru Warrior. If anyone's watched him, all 3 of his last 3 wins, he's done everything he can to try and get beaten, running to the half arc grandstand each time. He gets visors on today, on Saturday. I do find it interesting that Andrew Lewis has been very patient with the gear, putting gear on, because it's been obvious to everyone that he's been wandering about in the straight. So he's obviously been very careful with what gear he actually puts on the horse. So he gets visors on. Hopefully that's enough to sharpen him up. I think at the moment he's $1.85 or thereabouts. I still think that's a good price. I think on race day he'll jump around $1.50 again like he did last start, and it'd be very hard to beat again.
What do you reckon level-wise he can get to, 6, 12 months' time?
Well, is he an Adelaide Cup horse? Probably, 4 months from Adelaide Cup, so that's probably going to be too short of a turnaround for him. I presume his grand finals maybe next week if they back him up into, is it the Skybow of the 2500?
Skybow. Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him back up next week into that. After that, not sure. Look, is he an Adelaide Cup horse running 2 miles? The 2 miles is obviously the question mark, but I've got no doubt he can get to that level if he can run the trip out. Obviously all the gurus, they all run really well over that 2,500 metre distance range. What do you got? The Lord Reams as well. I can see him winning a race like that. I'd love to see him across the border in probably 6 months' time as well. I'd like to see him run at Flemington over a 25 or 2,800 metre race. I'm sure he'd be very competitive in something like that.
I agree with you there. And your last one for the day is in race 7, a horse I know my regular co-sider Lincoln Moore's got a big opinion of. It's the Paula Trenwith trained Ginger Sinner.
Yeah, very aptly named Ginger Sinner. I've actually been on this horse both starts this prep. Didn't get a lot of luck first up on the Parks track. He was ridden for luck, which was always going to be the case, I think, from gate 1 or gate 2 that day. Then even last start as well at Murray Bridge, he ran really well and ran a very good figure. It's rated really well in the ratings that I use. And again, just missed out on a shade of luck at a crucial time. Gate 7 on Saturday, going to need a little bit of luck the different way and getting a bit of cover early. but I expect they'll run along here. I think he can settle in midfield. As long as Caitlin's able to get some cover with Ginger Centre, then going to be right in this finish again.
Who do you reckon is its biggest rival? Because we had Kerrin Stokes on just before, and he thought Capital X can run a good race on Saturday.
I'd say that's its biggest rival right there. Yeah, Capital X ran really well last start, draws that 2 again, which is always advantageous on the Parks track, even if you get back or go forward to be on the inside and make a cutting run as they turn, as they fin. If you're able to stay on the inside and get a split, then you're right in the finish then. So I'd expect that's what Jacob's going to do. He's going to be probably midfield on the fence, I'd say, and as they're turning, if that horse gets a split, then it's going to be right there as well.
Right, race of the day on Saturday is race 3, a benchmark 70 over 1,250 metres for the 3-year-olds. It's the final heat of the Sportsbet Rebel Raider Series, which will be held next Saturday. And it's a really nice race here with a number of 3-year-olds who look to have a bright future. Got 3 last start winners in the field, including Demelli from the Stokes Yard, who was very impressive first up from a spell. She contested some stakes races here across the Autumn Carnival and obviously has come back in really good order. Zach, did you pick her winning last start at Morphettville, and can she win again this week?
No, I didn't back her last start. I was actually on the second horse in that race. Still hurts me like a night, getting out late and finishing well, but obviously Kayla with probably the ride of the day in that shortened card, with how she was able to split through and win. Obviously, it's a bit trickier for Demelli on Saturday, obviously being on the Parks track, drawn out, I presume. She's going to get right back, and she may even be last in the run again here, so it's going to be a little tricky for her to round them up like she did last start. I'm pretty keen with the Jolly horse here, Common Interest. I quite like this horse. Obviously, on debut, for those that can remember at Balaclava, the horse did everything he could to lose the race, and he got there in the last stride, but he showed that he has a fair bit of talent. Then second up, he was only beaten by Golden Horizon last start over the 1100 on the outer track. Goes to the Parks track, so he's got a handle going around on the Parks track, but he gets winkers today, which for a horse that's still learning as much as he is going to be quite handy. And the other key factor, as he rises up to 1250 for the first time, but Jake Toro jumps on board for his first ride, and it's actually Jake's first ride back in the saddle after his concussion injury that he's had over the last month or so. So I'm actually hoping all the stars align here for Common Interest, and he can ride forward, settle on speed. Hopefully the winkers and Jake does the trick.
Do you give any chance to the 2 interstate raiders in Whiskey Joe and Star Compass? Both good wins last start, and Whiskey Joe was one of those ones who jumped led and really stuck on late.
Yeah, so Whiskey Joe, that's probably the other leader in the race, obviously. He led and won on debut. We're yet to see any form come out of the race, so it's kind of hard. None of what he's beaten have run yet at the moment. But yeah, he's going to be up on speed, so he's going to give a big sight. So he's definitely in the race. Star Compass is an each-way chance. Definitely have it as a chance. You just, probably not one I want it back. But yeah, certainly not out of the race.
Nice. So you've got number 5, Common Interest on top. Currently $4.60 on Sportsbet, and Whiskey Joe is favourite, $2.90 with, you're giving a bit of a chance to Star Compass at $9. I like it. Any others that you can make a play for, or just very keen on Common Interest in the third?
Out of this same race, Dampen actually raced quite well and found the line nicely. Again, Gate 2 is probably not a bad thing. I'd say they'll run along well enough here. So I think Dampen for Byron Cosmanis will run well. We'll just let it split at the right time. Sir Micah obviously ran at Flemington last week and won here prior in a provincial race 2 starts ago. So I'd give Sir Micah a chance as well. And the other one from Dan Clark and Uppy's stable, Bootlegger, thought it was just plain first up. Probably prepared to risk it here, but has also shown some talent previously.
Yeah, it's going to be a very deep race, as the market would suggest, with 7 of the 8 runners all in single figures. So Common Interest on top for Zach in race 3 on Saturday. Thanks for joining us, mates. And fantastic having you on the podcast. And if people want to see what you do, where do they find you?
You can find on Twitter. The Better's Edge is the website that I'm working for at the moment. It's on my Twitter page as well. You can DM me as well. I'm a pretty open and easygoing guy. If you want to abuse me for any tips, go for it. I don't mind.
No, don't encourage that. No, but thanks for jumping on, mate. Really appreciate it. You did excellent. Thanks to all of our guests this week, James DeFerris, Kerrin Stokes and Zak Trussell. Now, don't forget, Sportsbet Finals Day is on next week at Morphettville. There's some cracking races on. Free entry. If you use the code SBFinalsDay25 on the Morphettville website, you can get as many people in for free. Want to absolutely pack the grandstands for a great day's racing. There's remote control car racing on the day as well, DJs, bands, lots of food and wine options, and obviously a fantastic day's racing. So head to the Morphettville site, whack in that code SBFinalsDay25 to get free entry for you and as many guests as you want. As of course, always give us a follow on the socials, X, Facebook and Instagram. Just find Dare to Dream. And as always, head to daretodream.com.au for your ownership needs. Thanks for watching, and we'll speak again next week ahead of a massive day at Morphettville.